Hello and welcome to Connected, episode 204. It is brought to you this week by our sponsors, Squarespace, Linode, and Inboard Technology. I'm your host, Stephen Hackett, and I'm joined this week by my co-host and co-founder, Mike Hurley.
Oh.
Or my co-Mike.
Hi.
It's just us this week.
Yes. I don't like co-mic.
That seems like you're part of a bigger mic system.
Yeah, or that you have multiple
You're
mics.
a cog in the mic machine.
One of the mics.
No, you're the only mic.
Mm-hmm.
Wooly spelled with a Y. So we are doing some traveling in October together, and I bought our plane tickets. Was it last week? And so I'm keeping you up to date with like, hey, this is where we're flying and stuff. And I bought a ticket for you, and I spelled your name M-Y-K-E, which is not your given name that your mother gave you when you were born. You have altered it.
Do you want to tell people how much money it cost you to fix that mistake you made?
No, basically free. I just had to make a phone call to the airline, and I lost many minutes off my life.
I don't know. I saw a second email that seemed to indicate that there was a fee for
There
that.
may have been a fee. It's fine.
I think there was.
But it didn't cost me. It cost us collectively.
Right, yes.
So
your mistake cost me like $25
you changed
or
your
something.
name. Something that doesn't make any sense. Okay.
But
Okay. We're going to do follow-up now. Enough mic time. Co-mic time. iOS 12 Beta 5, Mike. It includes artwork of a thin-bezeled, no-notch iPad Pro. Are you excited about this?
Yeah.
Do you have feelings?
Yeah, I mean, look, this, and we got some stuff later on today, more like iPhone and iPad rumor stuff, but we put this one in there because it does relate to last week, and it's probably the least tantalizing of all of it. But what these things do is they just give you the reassurance, right? It's like, yep, it's definitely happening because this is what happened last time. There was some glyphs somewhere inside of iOS which very clearly indicated what the iPhone 10 was going to be. And now if they're in iOS 12 and they're appearing this late in the beta cycle, only seems to add fuel to the fire of new iPads in September.
Totally. You know, if you go into this article, we'll talk about it more, Face ID, a bunch of fun stuff. But yeah, it's just like a sign of life, right? Like something is happening. It's, you know, it's just a little glyph. It's not as fleshed out as, say, the Touch Bar was, which we had like an embedded video file in macOS. Not as fleshed out as what the HomePod leak showed about the iPhone 10, but it's happening now. We are close enough now. We're like potentially like 5 weeks away from a September keynote.
Yeah, I had this realization a couple of days ago.
It's here. Like it's almost here.
Yeah, I am very surprised to have realized this, that we're so close to the iPhone. You know, these are the types of leaks that I like because they don't really tell you anything, right? Like these are the ideal leaks for me, where it's like you can see it's coming, but you can still like, oh, what's it going to be? Yeah. What does this mean? Like these are my favorites. Probably my least favorite leaks are when it's just everything, right? Because it's less exciting. It's like it's only exciting for like the moment you read it, and then the excitement goes away because you now have all the information. Well, like stuff like this, you're kind of still a little bit like, ooh, like what could it actually mean? You know, these are my favorites. These are my favorite types of leaks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm right there with you. You know, there's always that excitement when you see, you know, someone on Twitter or on 9 to 5 or something have a leak and they walk you through it. But you're right. Then it's time for like the keynote. We've talked about this for years. In time for the keynote, then it's like, oh, I kind of see all this coming. Sometimes Apple jokes about that, like, oh, stop us if you've seen this. You know, like Phil Schiller, like chucking and jiving. But it's I agree with you. I like this level of leak, and I'm sure we're going to see more because that's how this happens. Because it's enough for us to like talk about and like really sort of let our imaginations run wild. We can sort of guess what they're going to do, and it's fun to talk about like on the shows and just kind of, you know, with nerds. And it also like expands the time that we get to talk about new stuff, right? Like if it's completely secret, then it's like, well, you can make guesses, but this is a fun middle ground. I'm sure that we will see more. In fact, we already have seen more. We're going to talk about that in a little while, but I agree with you. This is like a nice sort of, yeah, there's some stuff going on, and, you know, it's a 32 by 32 icon. So, you know, you can kind of apply your wishes to the leak and like apply your desires to it, and it can't tell you that you're wrong yet, which is fun.
So it was quite funny for me a couple of days ago when I got a notification for an episode of App Stories, because I have like to have notifications on for Overcast because I don't know what this type of notification is, but like it doesn't light up and it never has like made a sound or anything. Like they're just the notifications are there. I don't know what like type of notification this is that Marco's doing, but whatever. And because I like to be able to just triage the shows that I want to listen to, because I subscribe to lots and lots and lots of feeds, including the Relay FM master feed,
boy.
as well as all of the individual shows.
I don't even do that.
So I never want to see what the master. I never listen to anything from the master feed, right? I listen to the individual, so I get everything twice, right? So including all my own shows. So I have to delete lots of podcasts, right? Because every show that I'm on, I get 2 entries in Overcast for it.
Yeah.
But I don't need to listen to them because I was there at the time. So I got notification for App Stories episode 73. Show me your Mac menu bar apps, and I was like, hang on a second. I was like, no offense, I love App Stories, but one, I don't want to listen to that episode because I don't care about Mac menu bar apps. And then when I had that realization, I thought to myself, Federico definitely doesn't care about Mac menu bar apps. And then I realized, Stephen was on it because Federico's equipment exploded.
Yeah. Like I told John, I think it made it in the show. Anytime I can hijack one of Federico's media properties and talk about the Mac, I'll do it. Like, so John's like, I need somebody to record. It's like, yes, I can do it right now. Let's go. Like, whatever time you need me there, as long as we can talk about Mac menu bar apps. That episode may not be for you, and that's fine. But I had a really nice time talking with John about it, and I think it came out really nicely. It's a great show. If you don't listen to App Stories, you need to add it to your rotation.
It's fun. Yeah, it's very good. I like App Stories a lot. That one just wasn't for me. No offense, guys, but like, I mean, I barely care about Mac apps, Mac menu bar apps. That's not for me. I'm sorry. I love you all, but I just can't.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if Federico's discovered it yet because he's sort of in and out. So we'll see. He hasn't texted me anything angry yet.
Well, there was a funny thing with this. So I was listening to, I just started listening to the last episode of, I think maybe 2 episodes ago of Canvas, where it's Jason and Federico talking about shortcuts. It's a couple of weeks old. I'm still catching up, right, on my post-honeymoon podcasts. And they just begin the episode talking about the fact that you shouldn't be on it.
Yeah, I was supposed to be. And like Federico talking about this,
right.
And I was like, wait a second. Like, just do a show with Jason. It's be way better.
Yeah.
And it was really, really good. We'll have a link to that too. I learned a lot listening to Federico talk about that stuff with Jason. It was good.
All right, so we are in August, and August is a very special time for us here at Relay FM because we celebrate our birthday or anniversary. And I have a question for you because I don't know how old our company is, and I need you to help me because I cannot work it out.
4 years old.
4 years old. So are we celebrating our 4th birthday?
Yes. Yeah.
Or because this is what I struggle with. It's like anniversary and birthday.
Well, no, it's the same thing.
Like,
you don't celebrate 0. So you don't.
Right.
You just got married like 3 days ago. That wasn't your 0th
it's a month.
Anniversary. So it's next summer will be your 1 year anniversary. Same with your birthday. You don't celebrate.
Right. Yes, because I know that we started the company in 2014, and I know it's 2018 now, but I keep getting myself confused. And like, do we say so the company is about to be 4, right? Next Saturday we are 4 on the 18th. All right, great.
Well, and to confuse it more, the company is older than the network because we didn't launch immediately. So we celebrate
but we
it.
don't count that.
We celebrate it.
We don't
the
count,
day that we launched the network.
The actual, because there wasn't really a specific day that it started.
Yeah, it's whenever the state of Tennessee said, "Yes, you're a business." Congratulations.
No, I don't think that counts. I don't think that counts.
It legally counts.
Tennessee don't rule me, man.
It does.
I'm my own man.
Well,
no, it doesn't. It thinks it does. It can't get me. Tennessee can't get me.
I mean, I paid state taxes this week, so they do.
Yeah, but that's you.
Anyways, what are we talking about?
I'm over here.
It is our 4th anniversary.
It's our 4th anniversary / 4th birthday, and so a bunch of fun stuff happens in August. the biggest thing is our special bonus episodes for our Relay FM members. We will talk about that more beginning next week. But one of the things that me and you always do is an annual Q&A. Now, we realized that our Q&A, I think, has been in different places almost every single year since it started.
I think so.
And this year's Q&A will be next week's episode of Connected.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you would like to ask us a Q that we can A on that episode, send in your questions over Twitter. Please use the hashtag RelayQA, so RelayQA, and we will answer as many of them as we can on next week's episode of Connected. And it's always good. I really enjoy them. It gives us time to look over things. We can talk about things. If you have burning questions you want us to ask, you want us to know what we think about the industry, all of that stuff, hashtag RelayQA, and me and me and Stephen will be doing that next week. What I was trying to say, and my brain jumped ahead, is Federico is back the week after. Mm-hmm. So he's on vacation right now. So last week, his equipment exploded. Now he's on vacation because it's going to be his 30th birthday.
Ooh.
On Friday the 10th. Federico turns 30 years old, so please do your best to congratulate him on that achievement.
He's going to freak out.
He's going it's going to be it's a big day.
I mean, I remember I turned 30 many decades ago.
About 15 years ago, I think it was. So Federico turns 30. So everyone needs to congratulate him on Friday the 10th.
Wait, does that mean he was 25 and we started podcasting together?
You know that me and Federico are the same age,
I know,
right?
But I don't like to think about it.
Okay, cool. I just wanted you to know that we are the same age.
So young.
But his birthday is in August and mine is in January.
Yes. So anyways, yes, send us your questions. It's always fun to sit down and sort through them and talk about stuff. So that'll be next week.
Yep. So look forward to that. All right, should we take our first break?
Let's do it.
This week's episode is brought to you by Squarespace. Make your next move with Squarespace so that you easily create a website for your next idea, project. And with a unique domain name, award-winning templates, and more, they will give you the place that you need to put your next thing online, no matter what it is. They're an all-in-one platform that offers all of everything you're ever going to need for the web. Let's say you want to create a blog. Let's say you want to create a portfolio, a site for your business, a site for a wedding or an event, a site for your local club, or even a website to sell stuff. Squarespace has all of the functionality you're going to need for all of that. There's nothing to install or patch or upgrade or worry about because they've got it covered and then backed up with 24/7 customer support. I have used Squarespace for so many projects for like the last probably 10 years, I would say. I've probably been using Squarespace for about 10 years at this point. Like we just did our wedding website with them and it was so easy. They have templates specifically for that. So they even kind of helped us understand what a wedding website even needs to have. Squarespace plans start at just $12 a month. You can sign up for a trial today and you can check it out and customize your page and build it all up. And then there's no credit card needed to do that. Just go to squarespace.com/connected and sign up today. Then when you're ready to publish that site to the world, just use the offer code connected and you'll get 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain and show your support for this show. Once again, that is squarespace.com/connected. And then the code connected to get 10% off your first purchase. Our thanks to Squarespace for their continued support of this show and Relay FM. Squarespace. Make your next move, make your next website. So what have we got going on with rumors today?
So I want to talk some about the iPhone. Like we said, we're, a month or 6 weeks or something away from seeing the new phones from Apple. And about this time last year, some dummy models came out. And so these are like mock-ups of what people think they'll be based on all the leaks. And some YouTubers got a hold of them. We'll have a link to MKBHD's video. I saw Jonathan Morrison had them as well. Kind of a representation of what the phones would be like. They're not working phones, right? But they are sort of the enclosures. It's all kind of put together nicely.
It seems like these are built by case manufacturers, right? Based upon leaks from the supply chain. That's where it seems like these are coming from.
I think so, yeah.
Which is super interesting. And previous years that this is, because I think you had these last year, at least just last year, this stuff tends to be pretty on the money because it is an incredible advantage for a case maker to have this, right? So they seem to be able to pay probably very large sums of money to people that are currently making these phones or know about them, so they can build prototypes and build their cases around them. So my personal feeling is what we're seeing in these videos is basically completely what we're going to see
I think
in
so.
September.
I think so. And these case manufacturers have a lot of incentive to get this right, because if they can have cases ready to go, 3 days before their competition, then that's, potentially more sales for them.
Mm-hmm.
Especially in a year where you have, we're going into this, new sizes, right? So it's a little bit different when, the iPhone 5 and 5S basically the same, but in years where we have model changes and we can get into what that entails and how this year may even be different from last year, it's important if you're a case maker to get out ahead of this stuff. So it makes sense. I'm sure this is like the tip of the iceberg when it comes to this industry, which I find really interesting. Like, who knows how this stuff comes out and all sorts of I'm sure sort of shady things are going on behind the scenes and in alleyways.
Just like the worst, right? Like, it's just going to be the worst stuff.
These mock-ups fall in line with what we've heard and what we've seen before. 3 new iPhones this year, an updated iPhone 10, a iPhone 10 Plus, and of course we don't know the names. So it's iPhone 10, iPhone 10 2 and an iPhone 10 Plus with assumingly like iPhone 9, cheaper iPhone in between the two size-wise. And I find this lineup incredibly interesting because it's really different than what we've seen from Apple in the past, where we've had, until the 10, you had the regular size phone and the Plus phone for a little bit more. Spec-wise, they were basically the same. The Plus, eventually got nicer cameras and stuff, but more or less the same phone. And now you have that being split by this phone in the middle that is potentially drastically different. But I'm curious what you think about that. Is it my first thought is it a mistake for the current iPhone 10 to be the smallest sized iPhone from here on out? Do you think this is weird that all the phones are getting bigger from where we are now?
This was interesting because we knew this, but there was something about seeing it that made it more apparent, right? Like, all of the rumors have said that there was going to be, like, the iPhone 9, we'll call it, right, was going to be the 6.1-inch LCD screen. I was like, well, obviously that's bigger than the 10, but we didn't really think about it, right? Like, I think it just kind of was just, until you see it, you kind of realize that,
it's hard to visualize.
Yeah, it's like, well, now this is what you get. So my expectation will be that they'll probably still sell something, right? You could probably still get like an 8, maybe, right?
I mean, it'll go down the rung one, but I don't see a new phone at that size.
Yeah, and the 10 will probably get, or whatever there's going to be, is going to be a little bit cheaper, right? There's probably going to be a shuffle down there, at least.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, does the 10, as we know it now, stick around, or does it drop, to your point, drop down in price? Or
I think the 10 is going to stick around, but practically nobody else agrees with me, which is fine.
Yeah, I don't know. Like,
which is fine.
We're in uncharted territory now, right? This started with the iPhone 8 being not the 7S and being different in some pretty radical ways. And now we have, in my mind, like the old playbook, like we can't guarantee anything is going to happen the way it used to. And so, yeah, who knows what'll stick around? Maybe this iPhone 10 is the same we have now, and there's not actually a new 10 size phone. It's just the 9 and the 10 Plus. I mean, who knows? Like, I think anything is possible. But there's a shot in the MKBHD video where he has all 3 sizes stacked in his hand. It is a real smooth gradient in size from like the 10, we'll call it the 9, and then the 10 Plus. Like, it is right in the middle. I don't know. Like, I just don't know. And this is not me like trying to talk someone into the iPhone SE, but like the iPhone, 8 is a really nice size. And if you thin bezeled that design, I think a lot of people would be happy with that. But I just don't know if everything getting bigger, if the 10 now being the smallest phone is going to make everybody happy or not.
So let me just say, because I'm totally following you here, but the 10 is not that much bigger than the 8, right? So you're looking at 0.2 inches in height and like 0.10 inches in width. So you're looking at 3 millimeters thicker, like in width, so I should say 3 millimeters wider and like 5 millimeters higher.
Oh, okay, so they're closer than I haven't held a phone that size in a long time because my wife has an SE.
It's the screen. The screen being bigger makes you think the phone's bigger. But an iPhone 8 is 138.4 millimeters tall, and an iPhone 10 is 143.6. And an iPhone 8 is 67 millimeters wide, and the iPhone 10 is 70 millimeters wide. So it's not really that much bigger at all, right?
Okay. That makes me feel better then.
Yeah, but I think the screen being bigger makes you feel like it's bigger, and it's more expensive. So my kind of feeling on, like, it makes sense to me that if they're only going to make one, that it sits in the middle of those two in size.
Yeah, okay. I think you've talked me into it. Just because I don't have a phone of that. I've actually, except the iPhone 6, which I ended up moving to the 6 Plus, I've had Plus phones until this. And I think without that other size phone in my household, I sort of lost track of where things are. So yeah, so I think, okay, so that works. The iPhone 10.
The problem might be the price, though, right?
Well,
because if some people were buying the 8 for price reasons,
I think people definitely were.
Then they're going to be in trouble because the 10, if it gets any cheaper or whatever is, maybe it's the 10, maybe it's the 10S, whatever, it's not going to be that much cheaper. The cheaper one will be the 9, which will be bigger.
Yes.
So that's going to be bigger still.
And these rumors are kind of all over the place about what Apple could do to the 9 to keep that price down. And so the model show, it just has a single camera as opposed to the dual camera module on the 10. Lots of rumors have said it's going to be an LCD display. And in his video, MKBHD says that the mock-up is a little bit thicker, and that would make sense with the LCD because you have to have a backlight.
The bezels, you mean, right? The bezels.
He said the phone itself is also a little bit thicker than the 10.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Which you would need for the LCD. The bezels are a touch thicker. Again, you need that for the LCD because you've got to have backlight and stuff around the edges. Where an OLED, you can, Apple's actually folding the OLED over into the bottom, which is interesting. So the screen and the camera, two obvious places, right, to cut expense, and you can make the phone cheaper. And honestly, like, Apple's LCD, like the OLED is really good. I don't think I'd want to go back to an LCD phone, but people coming from, an iPhone 6S or an iPhone 7, looking at the 9, it's going to be a better LCD than they have. So I think that's totally fine to still have an LCD phone, like at the top, as a new phone, right? I don't think they have to go all OLED yet. In a couple years, I think that they may need to. But for now, like, the LCD makes sense to me. I'm not bummed they're doing it. I think it's a logical choice for this device, looking at the people who will probably buy it. I don't think many people can go from the iPhone 10 this year to the iPhone 9 next year. I just don't see that really happening.
I just stumbled upon something in my brain.
Oh.
I think that device will be called the iPhone 9 because it will look like a bridge between the 8 to the 10, which was kind of the point, right? They were saying that the iPhone 10 was the future's phone, right? Like it was multiple years ahead. And then if you looked back in history, you would see 8. And then from the 8, you go to the 9 because it changed design but still had an LCD and all that and a single camera. And then you go from the 9 to the 10. And then the 10 got 2 cameras and it got an OLED screen and all that kind of stuff. So that seems interesting to me. Like, I reckon it. I do now. I've talked myself into believing that it will definitely be called the iPhone 9. And then I don't know what they're going to do with the other names, but that's my thinking. Apparently, if there are going to be lots of bright colors, which was a rumor from previous, this is where we're going to see them. So it'll be in this device. Now, I don't know what that does to this device because I feel like it is probably a bad idea to do this. I don't think they should do the colors in just this one device because it seems counterintuitive to making the phone look this way. Like, you take all these steps to make the iPhone 9 look like an iPhone 10 but be cheaper, so then it looks like you've got a cool new phone, but it's cheaper for you to get it, right? But then if you make that one the only one that has red, blue, and orange, for example, if you bought the red, blue, and orange, you're going to be signaling the fact that you have the cheaper phone. And isn't that counterintuitive to the point of doing it?
Well, it's the problem of the iPhone 5C where
Yeah.
the iPhone, and my argument assumes that the 9 and the 10s have basically the same internal specs, same CPU. So the iPhone 5 and 5S and 5C were a little bit different in that regard. That the iPhone 5C was really an iPhone 5 with a new case. It didn't have the new processor.
I think that 9 will have all of the 10 specs, including first-gen Face ID.
Right, that's what I'm saying. So I think that's a little bit different than in the past. But what the iPhone 5C signaled to people is that you bought the cheap one. It was plastic and not aluminum. And some people bought it because they liked the colors, but we know the 5C didn't seem to sell as well as Apple maybe thought it would. It was gone pretty quickly. They haven't gone back to that sort of decision in their product line since. So maybe this is revisiting that. I honestly would like to see colors in all three models.
Well, so would I. Yes, that would be preferable, right? Like, I would really like that. I mean, it's very possible that if they do a gold 10 plus, then I might go gold anyway.
Yeah.
But like, I would like actual color, like real color. Like it
Blue
would be
or
a
orange would
bummer
be
to
awesome.
me if like there was a blue and an orange iPhone 9 available, but not an iPhone 10 or an iPhone 10 plus. Like, I would be annoyed about that.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think that it's weird. Like, if part of the reason that they did this is because they wanted to make all these phones look the same for a status symbol perspective, which is one of the reasons you would do it. Not the only, but one of. Singling it out by giving it the color, I don't think adds to that status symbol thing.
No, it doesn't.
So I don't know.
It doesn't, and it does. It's the same. I think one of the downfalls of the 5C, it's repeating that mistake, because I think people looked at the 5C and the 5S, and if you saw a 5C, you knew that someone bought the cheap one. It was really, the 5C really jumped out at you because it was so bright, and this, obviously, Apple hasn't done a blue iPhone since, and so this would, I think they would repeat that. I think what you're saying is a repeat of the 5C mistake. So we'll see where that goes. I mean, like I said, I want colors everywhere. I don't know if I'd buy an orange or a blue phone, but I like the option. And I think people, we talk about this a lot, people like options. I mean, look at the Apple Watch. It's the reason they change the band so often and the case colors. Like, people like personalizing their technology based on the color. This is why there's so many cases in the Apple store. You walk in, Apple makes their leather and silicone cases in like 15 different colors because people, they I really like this yellow one. I'll put the yellow one on my phone, and now my phone is yellow because most people have cases. And bringing that to the phone itself is something they haven't done much except that one year. There's also the idea of a Face ID. So there's a lot of, we'll get into the iPad, but there's a lot of evidence building that the iPad Face ID system will be rotation agnostic. So right now, if I need to be oriented the same way my iPhone 10 is for it to unlock. I discovered this when I was doing my iPhone 10 review, unboxing videos, where I had the iPhone in a tripod mount talking to it. The iPhone was in landscape and I'm standing up. It wouldn't unlock with my face. I had to turn the phone so it lined up with me. And that doesn't really work on the iPad, a device that is very often in landscape, but can also be used. It can be used any way, right? There's no right way or wrong way to hold an iPad, really. And there's evidence that Face ID in the iPad will overcome this. That it doesn't matter where you are in orientation to the iPad, and maybe that could be coming to the new phones. And so maybe that's another way to keep the cost down on the 9 is to have Face ID Generation 1, if you will, and then Gen 2 Face ID coming to the 10S and the 10 Plus being a little more flexible in where you are in space to the phone.
Yeah, I do wonder if it's hardware or software was the limit for it. But nevertheless, I think they will say these new phones have it and the old phone won't have it.
Yeah, even if it's the same hardware, they could say, well, it's a software difference.
Yeah, and then it's just it's just in these phones.
Right.
Or there might be it might need additional processing power that a new chip will offer. We don't know.
Yeah.
But, I guess it's I think we can naturally assume that the 10S, say, the 10 Plus, will get the new chip, which will probably be the same chip that's in the new iPads. What is it, A12, A12X, something like that?
Yeah.
Which is going to be, 7 nanometer, I think, is the rumor, which is, Could be
Crazy.
very interesting. Like, could make some big jumps. So we'll see that. But let's talk about the phone that everyone really cares the most about, which
Yes.
is an iPhone 10 Plus.
Yes.
6.5 inch display. That's
a big
all right,
boy.
so like, that's gonna be pretty intense because so here's the thing, right? So this will actually be smaller than the 8 Plus. It's physically smaller, but the screen's bigger. So I think the one-handedness will be worse because you have more space to cover than you did with, because you never touched the top of the Plus phone, right? There's nothing up there.
Like the forehead. Like,
Yep. So it's going to be super interesting to see how that comes to light. But without seeing it, I don't need to see it to know I'm buying it. Right? Is what I want. I want a bigger screen. So the screen is insanely large, right? So MKBHD in his video, he puts the 10 Plus model next to an 8 Plus and then kind of overlays a screen on top of the, like in digitally overlays a screen. And you see that size difference? My word. It's just wild. But the physical size difference between the 10 and the 10 Plus is 1 diagonal inch. It's not that much. Like when he puts the two phones together, the size difference is way smaller than it was between the regular phone and the Plus phone, like in previous years, which I think is very exciting. I cannot wait. I cannot wait for that, because that 6.5 inch screen, that's wild. That's nearly an iPad Mini. It's nearly an iPad Mini.
I remember that product.
Oh, I'm so excited. It remains an important product in the lineup.
I don't even think it
all
got
mini
important.
products.
I think it still exists.
It didn't get anything. They don't say anything about that.
I too am tempted by this. I like the iPhone 10 size, and I can operate it more or less with one hand if I sort of jostle it around. But having that bigger screen, but especially the bigger battery, is always an upside to the Plus phone. It's one reason I switched to the Plus so many years ago. And yeah, I think I would definitely be interested in it. I think I could order it without seeing it, but I think if you're on the fence about it, just like before,
Oh yeah, go
it's
and see
worth
it.
waiting, going to a store, and handling them both. Because if the relative difference is like the 6 and the 6 Plus, you do have to like retrain your hand, and you have to sort of figure it out, because it is even though it's just an inch more diagonal, it is noticeable in a lot of circumstances, and it's worth, if you're unsure, checking it out, because you can definitely be surprised by the larger size.
Plus Club's going to come back in a very, very big way. I'm excited.
I think so. So this would be the one you would do. This is it.
There's no choice. Like, this is what I'm going to go for, right? Like, this is not a question for me, right? Like, I will get the Plus phone. Like, I'll get the biggest one. I always want the biggest screens I can have, and this will be no different to that. I'm always happy to go for bigger screens, because the trade-offs for me are never as large as what you know.
Yeah.
Like, I always want the bigger screen more than I care about the trade-off.
That's fair. 27-inch iMac, 12-inch iPad.
Yeah.
6.5-inch phone.
Yeah. Oh, it's going to be crazy. It's going to be wild around here. I want to talk about dual SIM.
Okay, yeah.
Because this has been something that's been prevalent, right? Dual SIM, that the iPhone's going to have a dual SIM, and that was kind of all it was. And then over time, it's like, well, what one's going to have dual SIM, and will it really? And then there's been some stuff floating around of like clearly dual SIM support in iOS. And why is this anyway? Why do people even care about this? Well, it turns out that dual SIM support, so having 2 SIM cards in a phone, is very, very popular in China. Apparently, somewhere between 3 to 4 billion people in China have phones with multiple SIMs in them, or require multiple SIMs. So this is a big deal, and like there are these different ways of doing it, and it seems kind of unsure which Apple's going to do yet, where either you have to make a switch between them, or they kind of both run concurrently. But now the news report seems to suggest something that makes so much more sense to me, that this will be a unique version of the LCD iPhone, so the iPhone 9, only available in China. So everywhere else except for China, it will have a single SIM. But in China, there'll be an option, or it will come as default with dual SIM support. This makes so much sense. They clearly have enough people to sell to them that it warrants doing a specific one-off version in the same way that they did the Verizon iPhone, right?
Yep,
Because it was
I had one.
only really in the US, right, that it could be used. But frankly, this would be a kind of weird and eccentric feature for pretty much everybody else in the world. Like most of the world, especially in the Western world, this is not a thing. Dual SIM cards, like it's not a thing. People have two phones, but they don't think about dual SIM cards. It's just, it doesn't really make sense. I think for what, I don't know the actual reasons why, and I'm sure there are very good reasons why people do this in China. But outside of China, you know, if people have two numbers, it's typically because they want two phones, right? Like there's a thing about having multiple phones. You want multiple handsets, multiple suppliers, or whatever. Or you just need, you know, you have specific day needs and night needs, whatever it is that occurs in your life.
Day SIM, night SIM, really.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so this is likely now, and makes so much more sense to me, that it will just be a model for China only.
Yeah, I think it makes sense. I wonder if it should be in the LCD phone or the nice one. There's a lot of discussion in the Asian markets about, you know, about people's preference in size of phone, and as well as having something that looks new. You know, the idea that you can look at it, and maybe the 9 works there because they have the colors. You know, maybe they're leaning into that and not so much that it's the absolute latest and greatest. You know, China is a huge market for Apple, and they need to reach those people who aren't using iPhones. You know, if the iPhone is going to grow in terms of user base substantially anymore, it's going to be in places like China. And so to have something that caters to that market, it makes a ton of sense. You know, I wonder if there are people in other parts of the world that could benefit from it. I know I have no need for dual SIM. Like I don't even know what I would do with it, but I do wonder if it should be at least an option elsewhere.
I don't think it's the thing people are really clamoring for outside of it. Like I don't think that's the thing.
Yeah.
Right. Like I've never seen a phone for sale in the UK or the US which has two SIMs in it. I'm sure that it exists. I've just never come across it. And there isn't even a thing. You know, I watch a lot of reviews of Android phones. It's never mentioned as a feature, right? Like typically what you see is a SIM card and an SD card or something like that.
Yeah, expandable
right?
storage.
But yeah, and I think what happens is like maybe in China, if that phone's sold, there's actually two SIMs that go in there, right? But this is not a thing that I see anywhere else. Like I've never come across it. There's a couple of extra things on iPad rumors. So it's been discovered by a friend of the show, Guillermo Rambo, that in the simulator for iOS 12 Beta 5, you can get in iPad size both a home indicator and rounded corners in apps and multitasking. And I've been poking around a little bit, and there are hints of rounded corners throughout iOS 12 anyway, like simulator or not on the iPad. Which makes perfect sense because then it would meet the new style of the OLED phones with the small bezels. They have rounded corners, not sharp corners. So just yet again, more and more evidence, new evidence now for this, which also continues with these glyphs, these device-sized glyphs, which were also discovered by Rambo's @_inside on Twitter. Found a couple of things. One was these payment glyphs, which was how he found the iPhone 10 one. Do you remember, like, just showing the outline of the notch?
Mm-hmm.
It's the exact same thing. It was a payment glyph, and he's found a new iPhone 10, what appears to be an iPhone 10 Plus, and then something which was super weird to see at first, which was the iPad glyph, which is a square, and it sent me into a tizzy, right? Like a square iPad, like why would that be? But then more smart people, you can see it in the replies to the tweet, saying, "Oh, but this is probably just one glyph, which is then resized, depending on whether it's a bigger or a smaller iPad." And it was like, "Oh, good for you." I was a little bit concerned that we were going to get a square iPad. So yeah, that's kind of again just more and more evidence for these new iPads, which should be coming kind of around the same time in September.
Maybe they do in October with Max. Who knows? Debate is endless of what they put in conjunction with the iPhone. And they've done a bunch of stuff with the iPhone. They've had just iPhone events. I guess 3 years ago now, they did the big iPad Pro, the Apple TV, and the iPhone 6S. Like, they can do whatever they want, and they've done stuff all over the map. So who knows what will actually happen?
I don't know. A significant redesign to the iPads would call for a lot of attention, and the best attention you can give it is the iPhone.
Maybe. We will see. I just won an October event because I want Max on stage, and hopefully there's
They can still do something.
hopefully there's no new there are new Macs to talk about. If not, people are gonna be sad. My big question with the iPad is I'm not convinced that turning the iPad into a big iPhone 10 is the right answer. There are changes in iOS 12 to the way the gestures work, and they broke apart multitasking and control center. It's in the upper right hand corner, just where it is on the phone. The menu bar looks like it's like it is on the iPhone 10, and I understand wanting visually things to kind of be the same. These iPads aren't not rumored to have notches. Like whatever bezel they have will accommodate the Face ID hardware just fine. They won't need to cut into the screen anywhere, which would look weird on an iPad anyways. But I don't know, as someone who uses an iPad way more than I do, like, do you have any feelings about them sort of grafting on the iPhone 10 stuff to the iPad? Because last year, now still, unless you're running the iOS 12 beta, if you have an iPhone 10 iPad, some of the gestures are in direct competition with each other, right? Some things do exactly a different thing if you sit your phone down and pick up your iPad. And I was hoping they would sort of meet in the middle, and maybe the iPhone 10 would get things like putting Control Center in a place that makes sense, and the iPad can maybe pick up some stuff. But it seems like the iPhone 10 is the way forward when it comes to gestures. Do you have any thoughts?
I think it's fine. I think from a hardware perspective, it's the perfect answer because the iPhone 10 hardware is incredible. So if they can make an iPad which is similar to that in hardware, it's amazing. When it comes to software, so putting Control Center where it is, I think is the right move because I like it more now. It makes more sense to me because it's exactly where I use it on my iPhone. I'm not a huge fan of the changes that they made to swiping up takes you to home rather than bringing up the dock. You have to do like a slower, more considered swipe to get to the dock because I believe that the dock makes the most sense for the iPad. However, there are a lot of people that seem to be upset about when the iPhone 10 came out, that it had completely different gestures to the iPad, and people were getting turned off of using their iPads because it was so confusing. Whilst I never felt that and never fully understood it, if that is a thing that has happened, and I believe that Apple know that, then yes, they should change the iPad's gestures to make it best for most people. Like if there are a lot of people that really didn't like the difference, like that these gestures were different, then I figure it's probably the right thing to do, even though I don't personally like it.
That's fair. I think it's more important that they are the same across the devices than if like the specifics are to my liking. I think the uniformity is the ultimate goal.
Yeah, and frankly, like the iPhone and the iPad are different, but they're not that different, right? Like. And there should be uniformity. And then what I expect is iOS 13 will take some huge leaps in some directions, and then 14 will bring it back together a little bit more again. And that's just kind of how we're going to go now, and I'm fine with that.
Yeah. Well, there you go. This is the beginning of what will be Rumor Month on all the Apple podcasts and websites. So it's just the beginning.
Enjoy. Today's show is also brought to you by Linode. With Linode, you'll have access to a suite of powerful hosting options with prices starting at just $5 a month, and you'll be up and running them with your own virtual server in the Linode cloud in under a minute. Linode has hundreds of thousands of customers who are all serviced by their friendly 24/7 support team. You can email them, call them, or even chat over IRC in the Linode community. That's how important it is that they feel to get you the help that you want. They know that this is something that you're going to need, and if you have a question, they want to get it to you. But if you're just the type of person that likes to look through stuff and find out on your own, Linode have a suite of amazing guides and support documentation available to give you a reference when and where you need it. Linode has an intuitive control panel which will allow you to deploy, boot, resize, snapshot, and clone your virtual servers in just a few clicks, and they feature two-factor authentication to keep you safe. Linode is amazing for tasks like hosting large databases, running a mail server, operating a VPN, running Docker containers, hosting a private Git server, and so much more. Their plans start at 1 gigabyte of RAM for just $5 a month, and they offer high memory plans starting with 16 gigabytes of RAM. As a listener of this show, you can sign up today at linode.com/connected, and this way you'll be supporting the show, but also getting $20 towards any Linode plan. And if you choose the 1 gigabyte of RAM plan, that will get you 4 free months of service. And with a 7-day money-back guarantee, there's nothing to lose, so go to linode.com, that's linode.com/connected to learn more, sign up and take advantage of that $20 credit, or use the promo code CONNECTED2018 at checkout. Our thanks to Linode for their continued support of this show and Relay FM.
So we thought we would talk a little bit about some app news. Federico's not here, so there's no one covering the apps, and so we thought we would. Some stuff that we use and we like.
Should we tell some stories for these apps?
We saw some stories about apps. There's a name for that. So we're going to start with Instapaper. We spoke about this a while back, but they are independent. Instapaper's been kind of, I guess, purchased and removed from the cold dead hands of Pinterest and is now back independent, owned and operated by the people who are working on it within Pinterest, including some friends of ours. And they have announced some changes this week. They have returned to the paid subscription model. And so if you want things like full text search, unlimited notes, speed reading, no ads on the website, you can pay $2.99 a month or $30 a year. And this had been removed from Instapaper when Pinterest took over. They made everything free, and now this is sort of back in. If you need those features, you can do it. Those purchases are not available as an in-app purchase. There was a tweet from one of the developers saying they hadn't gotten to that yet, but they were looking into it. You can do it on the web. The payment's handled by Stripe. Of course, doing that way, Apple's not taking their cut, so all of it is going to the developers. And you know, I've used Instapaper. I've talked about this. I've used it since the day it came out, and it's been on my home screen of my phone and iPad ever since. And this is something that I'm probably going to do because I want it to be successful. It's not necessarily any of the features, but I want them, and I want this app to be around. And the news also came that they have done whatever they needed to do to become GDPR compliant. Instapaper was more or less unavailable in the European Union. We got a bunch of tweets and stuff, people saying, well, I see it, but I don't. And it seemed like maybe that was a little weird, but that's all been fixed. It's now fully available in Europe again. And they had what I thought was a pretty straightforward apology about that delay. And on top of that apology, they are giving 6 months of free premium users, a free premium membership, I guess. Yeah. To users in the European Union, which I think is I think it's a classy move. I think that's nice.
They did the right thing. You know, like they never should have gotten themselves into the situation that they did, and it shouldn't have taken as long as it did. I understand that there was obviously some stuff going on, right, which probably was part of the reason that led to this even happening in the first place, right? That it seems to have been bought or just released to this company. I'm still a little bit confused as to what's going on there, right? Like, I don't know if it's clear if the people that are working for this company, Instapaper Inc., if they still work for Pinterest or not. Like, I don't know if it is clear what is happening there. Like, is this a side project? Is this a business? It's not important. I just wonder. Like, I don't know. So, like, you know, because then it's like, if this is these people's jobs now, then it becomes more intriguing as to, like, you would believe that they're really going to try and push this thing to make it very sustainable for them in the long term. But anyway, I think giving the 6 month free for EU users is a good move. I think it's the right thing to do. Yeah, I think because it's been a very, very long time. What, since April?
Yeah.
Or something?
Yeah.
April, May? Since GDPR came in, and there's still a bunch of websites I go to, man, and it tells me I can't access them. Like newspapers, like LA Times. I can't go to the LA Times. Just can't go to it. It's just like, no, you're in the EU, so we can't help you. Basically, any trunk site is like, I can't go to it. I just can't believe it. I just can't believe. Like, what are you doing? Like, and it's also like a bunch of websites I go to now where it throws up that dialog box. I'm like, what? What are you doing? Anyway, but But I wanted to ask you, because I haven't really paid attention to Instapaper for a long time because I just don't use services like this. All of the features, so full text search, unlimited notes, text-to-speech player, speed reading, and send to Kindle, were they available for free before?
I believe, so don't take this as gospel, but I believe that these things were part of the previous premium subscription. And then when Instapaper went all free, everybody got this stuff. And now...
Right, so they've taken what was premium that went free, they've put it back behind premium again.
I think.
Okay.
Out of all of these features, I use actually none of these. Like, I don't have any notes in Instapaper. I actually don't use Instapaper for search very often, or if I do, it's not hard to find stuff. I really dislike speed reading, and I don't send stuff to my Kindle, so I don't actually know, but that's my feeling. These aren't all new features. These things have existed in the app, so I believe that they were all free before. So yeah, that's rough. And if you look at the comments on this blog post, like, there are a bunch of really angry people in here. Instapaper has a real uphill battle in terms of whatever happened with GDPR and making it right with those users, and saying, hey, this was free, now it's paid again. They have a lot of stuff to overcome, and I hope they can do it. I really do. But if they can't, I'm not going to be super shocked looking at the reaction to this, because people are rightfully so really upset, because going back and forth like this and then being down for a bunch of your users for 2 months is not a great look.
Yeah. And then even stuff like you can't buy a subscription in the app right now, which is something that they're looking to change, but like...
They should have had that, even if Apple took the cut, charge more or something. They should have had that. If I went to the app looking, I'll just do it as an in-app subscription. And the fact that that's not there, and it's only on the web, is that, like, they said, we ran out of time. It's like, well, you control the schedule. Like, if you needed another week, wait a week. I don't think it's about that. My guess is it's really about the income generated from it, and putting it on the web versus Apple's cut. I kind of think that may come out in the wash, that if it was in the app, more people would do it more quickly, because you don't have to deal with Stripe and like going to a website. If you're just on your phone, it's in the app, it's easy to do. And so I wonder if that's the right call. I kind of think it's not, but I don't know. I mean, I don't know their numbers. They do. Whatever happens, though, I would imagine that whoever joins this like paid subscription thing for Instapaper, that number is going to be way lower than it was before, because of all this damage that's been done to the app and its reputation over the last 3 or 4 years. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well,
I mean, I balance all that. I mean, I don't mean to be a downer. I balance all that with the guys who are working on it. I know them a little bit, but like, they're clearly passionate about it, because they, at least Brian, I believe, followed the app to Pinterest from BetaWorks and now owns it. And I believe they have left Pinterest as employees. I don't know that for sure, but that's the sense I get.
So Brian's like contract expired at Pinterest, and he just bought the company and left.
Yeah, maybe.
Which is totally fine to do, right? But like, that's clear. To me, that's clearly what happened.
Yeah, but also clear, like, they clearly care about the product. And
yeah, of course.
And they want it to exist, because most apps, we're going to talk about an app in a second that's dead. Instapaper should have died a long time ago, probably. Most apps would not have survived this many handoffs and this many acquisitions and changes. Maybe their consistency and, hey, the same team is working on it, maybe that's a good thing. And so, I'm going to continue to use it as long as I can, and hopefully that's a really long time from now. Hopefully they can get another decade or more out of this app. But I think they've got a lot of stuff to overcome in the short term before they can move on to that sort of long-term thinking.
So there's a bunch of other stuff today. Castro, which is a really beautiful podcast app for the iPhone, had a couple of interesting features added to it. One of them is side loading of files, which I think is super cool. So this allows you to save an audio file from any iOS or macOS device to a folder that's created in iCloud Drive. So Castro has a folder in iCloud Drive. So you could, for example, download an audiobook on your Mac, and if it's DRM free, you could save it into the iCloud Drive folder, and then when you go to Castro on your iPhone, it's going to show up there, and then you can play it, and that's really cool. I love this feature. I very frequently use Overcast's upload feature.
Same.
But adding this being in iCloud Drive is a lot more convenient than uploading it to the website, to the Overcast website. Just for me, this makes more sense, especially when dealing with things on iOS. You know, if I got something in iOS in Dropbox, I could just drag it in files into the iCloud Drive, and it would just show up. Like that is more convenient. I think this is a really cool feature.
Yeah, I mean, the way I often do it is I'll have something in Dropbox, and either on my Mac, or it works on iOS as well because of the Files app. You got to go to Overcast's website and upload it. This is something that I think Overcast, I think Marcus should look at for Overcast. I use this feature all the time, and I understand. I would imagine the vast majority of users don't. Like, I would venture to guess that it's like single-digit percentage of Overcast users or Castro even sideload files. But for those of us who do, I wish it was simpler. Or even like having a URL of a file if it's on the web somewhere, and just giving that URL to your podcast client and then just downloading it directly. Right now, you can use something like Huffduffer for that, but more ways to get audio into podcast apps is good. And of course, the Castro team, those guys do amazing work. All this is like super well polished, and it comes with like the level of niceness that you would expect from an app as beautiful as Castro.
They also added a feature, what do they call it? Chapter pre-selection.
Mm-hmm.
So you can go in to their chapter view, and in Castro, chapter selection and skipping and stuff like that is only available to their premium members. Did I call it premium?
They
have a term. I think it's you know what premium means. You know what it means.
Yeah.
If you pay them, yeah. And
Castro Crew.
I think
That's what they should have called
Plus.
it. Castro Crew.
I don't think they should have called it that.
I think it's really good.
I think it's Castro Plus because they have app icons and one of them is a plus. Yeah, it's called Castro Plus. So if you use the Castro Plus thing, if you pay for that, you can get chapters, and then now there's little check boxes, and you can untick chapters. So you could go in and be like, I don't care about follow-up. You know, you go like, oh, I don't care about Mac or anything that
everyone
Mike has
cares.
to say.
Everyone cares about both of those things.
So you could just look at it and you could untick a bunch of chapters. Of course, you could do this if a show has ads. You could do that too. I would love it if you didn't do that. But what you're going to do? So you can go in and you can uncheck stuff. And so this could be like, say you're getting in a car, you're going to the gym or whatever. There's things you just don't want to hear. You can uncheck them beforehand, press play, and let it run. Yeah,
it's a nice addition. And again, I love the screen for it. Like, it's really nice. The interaction is really fun. Chapters are here to stay. We're doing them in a lot of our shows and where they make sense. And I think better ways to manage that is fair game. You know, if you're going to chapterize a podcast, part of that equation is it does make people easier to skip around. And you know, I'm fine with that. I understand that's part of the medium, and the reality is that the numbers show that most people listen to most of the content in most episodes. So like, I'm not worried this is suddenly going to like tank or like drastically change the way people listen, because you can do this in other apps just manually. Like their twist is that you can do it on the front end, which is clever, but I don't think it's really introducing anything all that new from like a producer perspective. While we're talking about podcasting, Mike, I have good news. Skype 7 has gotten a new lease on life for now. So this is the quote from Microsoft. We will extend support for, quote, some time. Who knows what that means?
Pointless.
I assume that means the end of the year. So Skype 7, no one likes Skype, but Skype 7 is a pretty okay version of Skype in most people's eyes. I was using Skype 6 for a really, really long time, and now I'm on 8, which is the current version, and it's not awesome. It's got some weird things, like alerts kind of don't work, so you have to be looking at
It's
Skype.
some kind of cross-platform app. I don't know what this cross-platformness is, but it's some kind of cross-platformy stuff. And this, when it first came out, this new version of Skype, which is 8, there was a bunch
guess
of
what
weird
it's built
stuff
on.
to
You can
it.
guess.
Is it Electron?
It is. I'm looking in the frameworks folder.
Oh, I didn't know that. So Skype is now an Electron app. It does a bunch of stuff, like it doesn't have a traditional preference pane. They had to add in this weird zombie preference pane because you couldn't change audio inputs. Like, there's a bunch of stuff in this app which is not good. Frankly, I don't like this Skype 7 read decision. I wish they would just make a definitive decision on it, so then people can make up their minds about what they want to do. I don't like this, we're going to kill it. Oh, no, now we're going to keep it for some time. Like, either do it or don't do it, and then just be upfront with your customers, because like if they're just going to keep screwing around with it, then people can decide to go elsewhere if they want to. But I really don't like this kind of like stringing along that they've been doing for multiple years now with Skype about trying. Microsoft clearly have a route they want to go down. Either go down that route or don't. Like, Microsoft is so bad with this stuff. Either go down that route or don't go down that route.
Look at Windows 8.
Exactly. Like, you have to make a decision. Stop making decisions, annoying people, and then changing your mind. Like, you should know your decisions are going to annoy people before you make them, because you should have a lot of smart people there who understand what's going to happen. And if you know that, just weather the storm, because everyone will forget about it eventually, right?
Yep.
Like, just make a decision. Like, I hate this, like, make a decision, go back on it. Make a decision, go back on it. Like, just either do it or don't do it, and then let people fall where they will.
You're right. Microsoft's really bad at it. Apple is not. Apple, maybe on the other end of the spectrum, march forward, and you can run Classic for a few years, and you can run Rosetta for a few years, but eventually we're going to kill that stuff because the future is where we're going, and come on or get left behind. And I don't know. I mean, Skype 8 is not a great program. It's not like it's, like you said, it's weird and it's electronic, which is gross, but it gets the job done. And so I'm staying on 8 at this point because I don't want to get used to like the old way again and then be forced back into this. So like my tools still work in it. I've learned its weirdness and where it can get tripped up, and I'm staying with it for now.
The Newton email app is dead. It's dying, gone away.
Yeah.
There's going to be no more.
Not staying with Newton anymore. It's
No.
it's shutting down on September 25th. And I never used this. Did you use this in your great like email spiritual journey?
I tried it, and for a reason that I don't remember, it didn't stick with me. Newton used to be called Cloud Magic.
That's right.
And they rebranded. So they said in their blog post they had 40,000 paying subscribers, but they couldn't figure out long-term profitability for the company. I think it is unclear from the way that they've written this as to whether they still had 40,000 paying subscribers. They kind of referenced that at one point they had 40,000 paying subscribers.
Yeah.
Because really, if they had 40,000 paying subscribers, I can't understand how they didn't work out to keep the company going.
Yeah.
Because that's a lot of people paying you money.
It is.
And I don't think Newton's very cheap. I think that was one of the reasons that I was put off from it, which is like it didn't offer me all the features I wanted. And it was pretty expensive for what I thought I was getting. I think that was one of the reasons that it turned me off, because like a lot of the features that they were promoting just didn't work for what I wanted. They kind of made the point, and I think this is the biggest problem here. Premium email apps and services cannot compete with free services, and the free services are owned by companies like Apple and Google.
Oh, yeah, little startups.
Right? They all offer free email for people, and for the majority of people, all they need is what Gmail provides them.
Totally.
Because Gmail is very full-featured. They are going to be offering refunds for the rest of their customers' outstanding subscriptions. They said they're working with Apple and Google on this. I don't understand how that's going to really help them, but fine. They're going to try and find a way to give people their money back, which I think is great. My question is, are email apps going the way of photo backup solutions?
Yeah, and I think for the reason that you said, these apps have to compete with first-party solutions. So like Mail app's not great for everyone, but it works for the vast majority of people. And if it doesn't work, you can install the Gmail app, which works with like the most popular email service on the planet really well. And these companies have to like find a leg in to like do something that the default apps don't do. And so like Spark, for instance, which we've talked about, we use at Relay because of their like chat and like behind the scenes features. So like we can work together on a response to an email or have a conversation about something in like a side rail, and then we go back to the email when it's time instead of like bouncing out to Slack. Spark has carved itself out a little spot, and I don't know if Spark's going to be successful long term, but for now they seem to be, and they are targeting like business use cases. Newton and probably Airmail, I think, are different than that because I think their market is like nerds. Like I was going to say email enthusiasts, but no one is an email enthusiast. But people who know more features are out there and they exist and want those features. And that's got to be a small number of people. And yeah, I think just at the end of the day, whatever's built in or provided for free by your service that you use, that's what people are going to go with. I mean, I know people who use Gmail on their phone because they don't know that the Mail app works with Gmail. So they're like, oh, I have Gmail, I download the Gmail app, and they use it for years, and they're totally fine. It's a good app. And I'd imagine it's hard to compete with that. And I think you're right. A lot of Mail apps, there's a lot of carcasses of email apps stacking up around here, and it's starting to be worrisome.
I think that really the only way to survive is to offer some kind of business or sales focused features.
Yeah.
I don't know what Spark is doing. I don't know how they're doing, but I think what they are doing makes the most sense for today, right? Like you put a team on it, the team pays for it, and they get something that they need.
Right.
Right. Although I will say I am using it, but I'm not paying for it because their free tier gives me absolutely everything that I need, and I don't understand why. I don't know why they offer their team stuff for free. I don't understand it because I would pay for it.
Yeah, no, we absolutely would.
But what I get for paying for it, I don't need it. Like I'm planning to, I've just remembered I was planning to sign up for their paid thing just to give them money, but I don't think they need a free version of it at all. It seems strange to me. I'm going to write down a note down. Got to sign up to pay for Spark.
There you go.
But it's like, I don't understand why they even offer a free thing. They should offer a trial, like for a time period. So people can try it out, but I don't know why they offer a free tier permanently. It seems strange to me. And talking about things dying, third-party Twitter clients as we know them, it's all about to change. Next week is when Twitter intends to make their API changes that we spoke about some number of weeks ago that are going to affect the way that third parties access the service. So let me tell you what you're going to see. You're going to see delays on alerts and notifications for mentions and DMs, and timeline streaming will stop working. So the Icon Factory, who owns Twitterrific, they started their preparation for this a few weeks back, and they did two things. They removed their Watch app because this was powered by the streaming API, and new customers were no longer able to access Today View or get push notifications at all. So I'll come back to that in a second. Tapbots, they've not been as succinct as the Icon Factory, right? Because the Icon Factory put this all in a blog post. But Tapbots have some wording on their FAQs and in some tweets that they've been sending via the support channels. So you can kind of piece together a little bit about what's going on there. So they say, Tapbots have said, in the worst case scenario, we won't be able to show notifications for likes or retweets, or notifications for tweets, mentions, DMs, and follows should be delayed by 1 to 2 minutes. So I don't really feel like I understand what's going on here, because Icon Factory and Tapbots seem to be saying things differently, because the Icon Factory completely removed push notifications for new users. But for Tapbots, they're saying that there will still be tweet mentions and DM notifications and follows, but they're going to be delayed. It's like, I'm not completely sure what's going on. Like, is one of them wrong? Is one of them either acting too quickly or not enough? Like, it's a little bit confusing to me, because the two companies that really this seems to affect the most, at least in our space, seem to be reacting to this news very differently. Tabbots have also stated that Twitter will remove timeline streaming. They haven't said what's going to happen to their activity or their stats screen, which I assumed was powered by timeline streaming.
Yeah.
Right? That's why Twitterific had to get rid of theirs. So either the Icon Factory is overreacting, or Tabbots is underreacting, or it's somewhere in the middle of it.
Yeah, I mean, we will know shortly. So say that Tabbots is right, that some streaming stuff will still work, but it's delayed. I wonder if Tabbots looked at that and said, it's a cleaner experience, more predictable if we just axe all of it. Or maybe they thought, hey,
That doesn't seem right to me. Because the things that like Tabbots are saying you'll still get notifications for is probably the things people want notifications for the most. DMs, mentions, but they're just coming through slower. But is a 1 to 2 minute delayed notification better than no notification?
I don't know.
I would say yes, it is worth it. Like a delay of 2 minutes is better than nothing.
I mean, if Tabbots is right and they still offer some notifications and Twitterific offers none, that looks real bad on Twitterific.
It probably will kill Twitterific, honestly.
And maybe it's
because people will blame them.
Yeah, maybe that's okay with the Icon Factory. I don't know. I don't know if they're trying to like scuttle the app or not, but. This has been coming for a long time, but I still think people are going to be surprised. And I wouldn't want to be in support for either of these apps when this happens in a couple weeks.
Yes, people are going to be surprised. Because the amount of people that actually notice information that use these applications is a minuscule percentage.
Mm-hmm.
Because as well, when the people that even get told this information seem to have very different understandings of it, right? Or someone's or maybe Tabbots have got something special. We don't know, but I just looked at this news. I compared what's going on here, and it doesn't make sense to me. So Twitter's making these changes, but two companies that in theory offer the same thing seem to be reacting to it very differently.
Yeah.
So I am very keen to see what happens next week.
Yeah, me too. And I like Tweetbot, but Tabbots is not always the most communicative. Is that how you say that?
Yeah, sure.
Sure. They're not the most forthcoming with information at all the time. Their customer facing communication is not always clear or timely, and so who knows? It's probably somewhere in the middle. And I guess the bad news is we're all going to find out soon enough. I mean, is this going to? I say that, but is this going to really drastically change the way you use Twitter? I don't have any notifications on except for DMs, and very few people DM me, and none of those are life or death. So if it's a little bit slower or I don't see them for a little while, it's not the end of the world. What about you, or what about people at large? I understand most people don't have the notification problems we do because we have larger followings.
Yeah,
but
I don't want to talk about people at large again because I'm not going through that conversation with people that we had last time where I tried to say what I believe and still believe to be how it will affect most people using Twitter, but a lot of people didn't seem to agree with what I was saying. For me personally, it will be frustrating at times to have things come through a little bit slower, like a minute or 2 minute delay, but honestly, I don't think that it's going to be too... I'll get used to it pretty quickly.
Yeah.
I don't have any notifications for any interaction on Twitter at all. If it removes the stats and activity screen from Tweetbot, I'll be really annoyed because it's two of my favorite features.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I think it'll be annoying during keynotes and stuff, right? The Twitter and the video are already
live
out of sync.
events, yeah.
But yeah, I think day to day, I don't see it drastically changing the way that I use it personally. I don't. I have streaming pin to top, whatever, turned on, at least in the Mac version.
You do?
I do on the Mac version, but I don't think it's going to be a drastic hit just because I don't use the notifications very often. So,
episode 193 of Connected is where we spoke about this last time when
I have blocked that out completely
when the news was originally discussed. You probably blocked it out because I said a bunch of stuff.
People got upset. Well, let's
talk. Not many people.
Let's talk about some more things that may upset people. You want to take a break, and we'll do this. We'll do this last topic.
Yes. Let's talk about our final sponsor for this week's episode, and that is Inboard Technology. They are the company, the genii behind the motorized M1 electric skateboard. Inboard's flagship M1 e-board is set apart from the pack of its innovative, industry-leading features and its sleek yet rugged design. Talk about those features. What about integrated LED lights on the front or tail? So if you're a safer ride, you can see where you're going. People can see you. You can ride long after the sun goes down. This is the only electric skateboard that has integrated LED lights, which I think when I read it, I'm like, why don't they all have that? That sounds like a really good thing. What about the ability to change battery so you don't have to awkwardly find a charging port? The M1 e-board allows you to just pop out the battery and put another one in, so you could carry an extra battery in your bag if you wanted to. And they have a remote. The remote that they have has a simple, intuitive design as a safety trigger that means you don't have to worry about any accidental takeoffs as well. So you won't send your skateboard flying into a group of people when you're not on it, right? If you're just like fidgeting with the remote, right?
Yeah.
So it's all good. You're all good. You can upgrade your commute with one of these boards. You forget about spending ages stuck in traffic or looking for a parking space. Just pick up your board and head to work. And if your commute is just fine, you might want to find a way to I don't know, run some errands around your neighborhood in faster fashion. It's great for that kind of stuff too. If you follow me on Twitter, you may know that when I was in Hawaii, I sprained my ankle. The greatest shame, the thing that I am most upset about in my life right now with my stupid sprained ankle, is that I have an inboard electric skateboard sitting right here, and I haven't yet had the chance to ride it. But luckily, things are looking up, so I expect maybe by the next time you hear us talk about the inboard, I will be able to give you my experience. But for now, maybe we should ask Stephen what his experience is with the inboard.
All right, so I am out in front of my house, getting ready to take my inboard out for a spin. I was not really a skateboarder before this, but the inboard gives you all the confidence you really need. The board is very smooth. The wheels just seem to glide right over small debris, cracks in the concrete. It's really very, very comfortable. The remote is really easy to understand and use. You're not going to make a mistake with it. And it just makes you feel alive. I like going fast. I like riding my bike fast. I like fast go-karts. The inboard makes that experience a lot easier to attain because you're out in the open, getting lots of fresh air, feel the breeze. It's a whole lot of fun.
For a limited time only, you can save $100 on your purchase of the M1 e-board by heading over to inboardtechnology.com and using the code CONNECTED100 at checkout. Get the board. You can try it out for 14 days. If it's not right for you, you can just send it back. With the easy return policy, if you've always wanted to try out a motorized skateboard, now is the time to do it. That is Inboard Technology, INBOARD technology.com, and use the code CONNECTED100 to save $100 for a limited time. Go there now. You won't regret it. Thanks to Inboard Technology for their support of this show and Relay FM.
So we've got one last topic. We're just going to dive into this because the news is a little bit old now, but Apple removed iOS and Mac apps from its affiliate program. So you used to be able to create a special link to the App Store, and if someone bought a $5 app, you as the link creator got a little cut of that. Last year, Apple tried to reduce that percentage, and it was met with a lot of feedback, a lot of negative feedback, but now it is gone entirely. And that is what it is. It's ending October 1st, so there's still 6 weeks, 8 weeks or so of this program left. And after this, you can still link to books and movies and TV shows. But the App Store affiliate system made possible a whole ecosystem of websites and people like comparing apps, doing roundups, creating editorial content around the App Store. And what I really want to talk to you, Mike, about is this line in Apple's email. So this is an email. It was like the end of the day on August 1st. And it said, with the launch of the new App Store on both iOS and macOS and their increased methods of app discovery, so all that new editorial stuff that came with iOS 11 is coming to the Mac with Mojave, we will be removing apps from the affiliate program. And they go on into the details. So like just cards on the table. I've been a member of the affiliate program for a long time. Depending on what I'm doing on my site or on Twitter, I make a little money from it each month, but it is nowhere near the amount that this is a big deal to me financially. Like it's very small numbers, a handful of dollars a month. But there are sites like Touch Arcade who are really going to be crippled by this, who really like that was a large part of their business. And you could argue that they should have evolved after what happened here. Mac Stories and Federico tweeted about it. Sean Blanc wrote a essay on the Sweet Setup about how they saw this coming and they started to move away from it. And those sites, Mac Stories and the Sweet Setup, are going to be fine. But I really don't like that line about, oh, well, the App Store is really great now, so we don't need all of this like third-party content. Like, am I just like reading into this? Am I just being sensitive, or like, do you feel like that phrase has some problems in it?
I think it's baloney, mostly. I don't think that this is the reason. You know, and there are a lot of people that have given a bunch of other reasons for why Apple could be doing this, either to stop scammy apps from trying to make money, to stop some big apps from circumventing the 30% cut, like some of the 30% cut, by linking to each other or linking to other apps that they own. Or maybe, I don't buy this one, I think this is silly, but to further boost services revenue. I think the amount of money this is actually going to be, it's not going to be that much for the services revenue column, to be honest.
Well, I think the flip side of that coin, before you move on, is some people have said, hopefully, this means once they recover this money, they can move from a 30% cut to a 20% cut or something like that.
Absolutely not.
Good luck if you think that's going to happen. They did it with subscriptions. That's as far as we're going. The other part that felt bad about this was that this happened like the day after the quarterly results, or maybe the same day, like right after Apple says, hey, you know, we've made more than ever this quarter than in previous quarters, and service revenue is up, and saying, oh, hey, you know, you guys making, you know, some people making serious money in this system, or that's going away. And so I think that the politics of it are really bad. The optics of it are real bad. And, you know, I can't speak to like the scammy side of this. Like, I'm sure there are people cheating and like doing weird things in this, but like, you're punishing everybody because there's some bad actors. Like, if you know they're bad actors, all this is trackable. If they're bad actors, kick them out of the system. Like, it's not hard. Like, turn off their codes and let people like Federico and Sean and you know, actual publishers continue to move forward. So I don't know. I don't like it because whatever the reasons are, and it's some blend of these and some factors I'm sure that we're not aware of. No, I can't come up with a reason that makes me feel okay about it. And again, this isn't being colored by the fact that all of a sudden I'm out $2,000 a month. I'm not. But I can't come up with a reason Apple would do this that's not kind of lame.
Because the thing is, no matter what that reason actually is, what they're saying is the only way that we believe the app stores need to be incentivized, that apps need to be like get promotion, is through the App Store now. We do not feel there is a requirement to incentivize people to write about iOS apps, because that was why it was included, right? Like, that was why it was there. You have this affiliate program to either incentivize people to write about it, for developers to link to other applications, so like it can generate more revenue going through the store, because if, you know, you get a kickback for it. Like, it's the same reason Amazon's affiliate, it's why affiliate stuff exists, because affiliate stuff exists to drive more people to the store to make more purchases, right? Like, that's why this stuff exists. That's why affiliate marketing is a thing, because you are trying to push people through, and a lot of ways this is done is through websites and media. But Apple is saying now that with the launch of the new App Store and increased methods of app discovery, they don't need to incentivize people financially anymore to do this. That statement can be read as, we do not believe it is important anymore for people who write or publish about applications to receive money for doing so as a cut. Now, that I find that to be mean-spirited. I don't like it. Again, like, so I will just say from what you've said, I've never personally made a cent from the affiliate program. Like, me personally. I think Relay FM has a code, but I couldn't even tell you how much money we made. It's
not much.
And I'll tell you, because whenever I link to apps in our show notes, it's very rare that I'll ever put an affiliate code on it, just because, like, whatever. Like, I just don't bother. Like, it's not massively important to me, because I never really ever made any money on it, so I never even think about doing it. So if it makes any financial difference to me, one, I personally, it doesn't bother me, and 2, I probably won't see it anyway. So anyway, but I just think that, like what is this going to do to coverage of apps in the long term? Like I don't, and like I understand what like that people are saying, like people like Sean and Federico saying that they found other ways to combat against this, but I think for a lot of people there isn't one, because writing about technology or applications in 2018, it's not a great way to make a lot of money. Like it is hard to make money in that business because advertising dollars are going to other places by and large, right? One of those places is podcasting, right? Like a lot of the money that used to go, I believe, into web media is moving into audio media.
As someone in both worlds, I mean, I think that's absolutely accurate. And yeah, the thing at the heart of it for me is though, like this community, like these people are writing, again, there may be some bad players out there, but at least everything I've ever come across is that's good for Apple. It's good for the App Store. It helps consumers feel more confident about their purchases. It drives people to discover new apps and new categories of apps that they weren't previously aware of. The reality is getting rid of this is not going to do anything major to like App Store download numbers because the App Store is so massive. This is probably a relatively small drop in the bucket as far as like referrals into the App Store. But it's not about the raw numbers. It's about doing right by the community. And Apple, for all of its ups and downs, the thing that always gets me worked up about it is Apple's community is what sustained it when it was in the dark times, right? It was like the loyal Mac heads who kept buying Quadras and Power Macs, even though all their friends thought they were nuts for doing so. And that community is not the same community that, like Federico wasn't around then. Mac Stories wasn't a thing then. But Apple has forgotten, I think, how important its community can be to the company because it's massive and it's well past the days of the Mac sells because people tell their friends to buy their kids an iBook and then their family gets hooked, right? Like the company's so much larger now, makes so much money. I think they've lost sight of that a little bit. And that's really what upsets me at the heart of it. I mean, yes, it's really a bummer that like sites like Touch Arcade are probably going to go away. Like that's horrible. But if it's happening because Apple isn't willing or is unable to see that community is still really important to its long-term health, then like that is not great. And it just gives me like a sort of a weird bad feeling.
I'm not going to give Apple different treatment than I gave Microsoft, right? Like, if they've made this decision, fine, the decision is made. I'm not asking for them to go back on it. My concern is I wish they wouldn't have made it in the first place. It's like, I wish that this wasn't the decision that they had made. I wish that they would have paid attention to why this thing exists and maybe tried to allocate some resources to deal with the problems if there were some. And if there weren't any, then what they have decided is that they don't want people writing about apps anymore, right? Like, and that is a very peculiar thing to me. Like, does Apple believe, or does Apple marketing believe that the only place that apps should be written about is in the App Store? Like, are they saying that? Because their actions recently have showed that they believe it's important for apps to be written about in the App Store, and they're doing a great job of it. I love that thing. But there are far fewer apps featured now than they used to be, right? Because they do like 3 stories a day as opposed to all of the things that they used to do. The features are better, but I don't think that that being featured today is as good as it used to be. I hear from many friends who actually say that being featured today, even in those screens, is not as powerful as it used to be many years ago. And so I just think to myself, what is the intention here? What are they trying to do? Because what they're saying, what they're being open with, seems to indicate that they don't think that it's important anymore, and I disagree with that. So, it is what it is. I think it's worth discussing. But if this is the route that they're going to take, I certainly hope that people will be able to adjust course where they need to. But Adam Engst of Tidbits called it unnecessary, mean-spirited, and harmful. I pretty much agree with that summary. Unnecessary, I don't know. Might have been necessary, I don't know. But it does feel a little mean-spirited. It does. Especially to do this in between the time of earnings reports and becoming $1 trillion company on the stock market.
Yeah. That's what I mean. The optics are real bad.
Yeah, like this feels like a nickel and diming thing, and like I don't understand why. Like if it was a significant amount of money that was going through the App Store, then surely they could have been able to reallocate some like service, like some resources to make it better. And if it wasn't, then why do you care? So I don't know. What I will say is, last on this is go download Blink by the Voorhees family. I feel so sorry for them. They were working on an update. John, who's been on previously, he's working on an app called Blink, and he's been working on it for many years. We've mentioned it on the show a bunch. It was an affiliate linking app. John was working on a big update. John and his son were working on a big update. They were like 2 days away from publishing the update, and this happened, which by and large renders the app useless if there's no affiliate linking anymore.
Yeah,
but what I will say, I use Blink as a way to quickly grab links for articles. Like I've used Blink like on my iPad. I don't even have an affiliate token in the app because I just never bothered setting it up. But I use it as a way to, like, if I'm writing something and I need a bunch of links, like App Store links, it is a faster way to search the App Store, and then with the new swiping actions he added, copy a link to the clipboard in the format that I want.
Yes.
Blink is still really good for that and will remain to be really good for that even after the affiliate program goes away. So Blink is now free, so go try it out. And if you want to lead them a tip, you can get some alternate icons. So I just feel really sorry for them because they're my friends, and it's just like the worst possible timing.
It's pretty bad. If you want to find links to stuff we talked about, including that video of iPhone mock-ups and Blink and a bunch of other stuff, head over to relay.fm/connected/204. While you're there, you can get in touch via email, or of course you can do that on Twitter. Mike is IMYKE, and you can find me there as ISMH. Federico, who is not here, is also on Twitter, VITICCI, and he, of course, is the editor-in-chief of MacStories.net. I'd like to thank our sponsors for making this episode possible, Squarespace, Linode, and Inboard Technology. And until next time, Mike, say goodbye.
Oh, don't forget about #RelayQA questions.
Yes!
If you want to give us questions for our anniversary episode, #RelayQA for that.
Thank you. It's in orange in the bottom of the document, and I scrolled up to get the episode number and missed it. So please ask us questions. We'll be back next week with those. And until then, Mike, say goodbye.
Cheerio.
Adios.